Right now on the National Weather Desk, wild weather. While Utah cleans up from floods and wind damage, wildfires burn out of control in several states. We'll take a closer look at fire whirls.
They can combine to create a spinning tower of flames and smoke.
Buckled roads, the endless heat takes a toll on many streets.
If it has no room to expand, it's going to buckle.
Pet warning. Dogs who play in certain waters could end up very sick.
I didn't know. My vet didn't know.
Cougars on the prowl. A warning to Washington State hikers.
My mom was a hero and knew what to do.
And the steps we can take to make beaches more turtle-friendly.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And a very good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Well, strong storms moved through Salt Lake City on Wednesday, unleashing heavy rains across the valley. The water flooded many streets and also pushed mud and debris across some roads, stranding several vehicles. Many roads were closed up for hours. Strong winds of up to 70 miles per hour also took down trees, carports, and other structures. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are once again in today's forecast. There's also an enhanced risk of some severe weather through portions of eastern Colorado and western Kansas. A slightly lower risk extends from there out into the plains and then also through portions of northern Alabama and far upstate New York. Damaging winds, large hail, tornado threat is pretty low. The U.S. had the most severe weather for the month of July on record. Last month had multiple thunderstorms, and the National Weather Service logged more reports of large hail than any other July on record. There were also tornadoes across the country, some in places where they're not typically seen, like North Carolina and also near Chicago's airports in Illinois. Many wildfires are burning out west, and among them the Bedrock Fire in eastern Oregon. This fire has grown to more than 11,000 acres and is just 5% contained. The cause is still under investigation, but it's believed to have started near the Bedrock campsite. Firefighters anticipate containing the fire by October 1st. And crews are making progress battling the York fire in California's Mojave Desert and southern Nevada. According to the most recent update, the fire has burned 82,000 acres and is now about 23% contained. Among its victims are groves of the iconic Joshua trees. The fire also spawned 20-foot flames as well as fire whirls. These can be very dangerous to firefighters. Our meteorologist Emily Gracie explains how they form.
Wildfires in California and Nevada have been generating extremely dangerous conditions for firefighters by spawning fire tornadoes. A fire tornado is also known as a firenado or a fire whirl. It's a rare and extremely dangerous weather phenomenon that occurs when intense wildfires generate a vertically oriented rotating column of air. As the hot air from the fire rises rapidly, it begins to spin due to wind shear and other atmospheric factors, forming a vortex. If the fire's heat and the air column's rotation are strong enough, they can combine to create a spinning tower of flames and smoke. While fire whirls form in the same way a dust devil does, they can produce winds as strong as a tornado. The Carr Fire in 2018 spawned a vortex with winds equivalent to an EF3 tornado. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And some firefighters in Texas not only have to battle wildfire flames, they also have triple-digit temperatures working against them. Betty Cross reports EMS care is becoming part of the front line. Part of the frontline fire defense to keep safety first and the dangers of heat and heat exhaustion and heat stroke at bay.
This aerial view of the Powder Keg Pine Fire in Bastrop County shows how much ground firefighters cover in 105-degree heat. The risk of heat exhaustion and heat stroke goes up with the temperature and demands EMS care be ready and immediately available.
With a summer like we've had with this record heat, it's no better time than ever to have these medics here on scene helping us out.
Emergency medical task force units include an ambulance and a rehab trailer stocked with ice to bring down the body temperature of heat stroke victims. To get to the front lines of the fire, a utility terrain vehicle is equipped much like an ambulance with a stretcher, oxygen, cardiac monitor, and trauma gear.
You can't drive an ambulance off-road, so they've also brought in a UTV that carries their med supplies. It carries, a stretcher and gurney, carries all those things that can go off-road into remote areas.
In Bastrop County, 2 firefighters were getting dehydrated, and the early treatment of their symptoms kept the problems from escalating. It's exactly how the state wants the additional medical resources used during a fire season that's seen 26 consecutive days of triple-digit heat.
Now, in places like Oklahoma, the heat is so intense it's causing roads to buckle. CJ Macklin spoke to local officials about how it happened and how they plan to deal with the problem.
The first question that comes to mind is, how do roads just buckle just because it's hot outside?
Concrete will expand and contract with variations of weather. So if it has no room to expand, then it's going to push against each panel and it's going to buckle.
And with temperatures rising in Tulsa, the pavement tends to get hotter than the air temperature.
Yesterday we took some readings that were in the 120s. We have different sensors throughout the city, 3 different sensors.
Tim says when it's 100 to 105 degrees outside, it's 120 degrees on the pavement. And while that sounds extreme, it's not uncommon.
If you get voids between the concrete panels and then you get like some foreign materials in there, it's detrimental to the pavement system, because when it gets this hot, the concrete will expand. And if that material's in there, it has no way to expand, and it pushes against each panel will push against each other and then it'll buckle. We anticipate maybe a few other issues, hopefully not, but with the heat, we're still going to get a lot of expansion and it could buckle some other panels.
Now, it's not just us here in the U.S. dealing with severe heat. Several places around the world are also baking under heat domes. But there's one location where the high temperatures aren't breaking records during their winter. Yeah, records in winter. Ryan Mirando explains.
Often this summer, the big weather story has been about the heat domes that have been bringing record warmth. Some areas in the south seeing their hottest Julys on record, and this heat dome continues to be set up. We've had it there for the past several weeks, but these wave across the whole globe. In fact, there's another heat dome right now that is set up over North Africa. Areas in Algeria are seeing high temperatures near 118 degrees Fahrenheit. That's sitting around 10 degrees above average, but there is one super interesting location in South America. There's another heat dome that's setting up over here. However, the southern hemisphere right now is in the dead of winter. It's like the month of February for them, and areas in North Argentina are seeing highs upwards of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. To give you some context of how really hot it is, areas in North Argentina are about the same distance away from the equator as Miami is. So imagine a February Miami day with a high temperature of 100 degrees, just incredibly warm.
Now, Florida seagrass is dying off, and it's becoming a grave problem in a huge lagoon that spans more than 150 miles of Florida's east coast. There's a spike in deaths for the creatures that rely on it, like manatees. But Dylan Huberman reports local environmental groups are working hard to restore the grass.
Vital seagrass disappearing from the Indian River Lagoon.
We've lost more than 50,000 acres of seagrass in the Indian River Lagoon. That's probably in the neighborhood of 90 to 95% of the grass that once existed.
Dr. Zach Judd with the Florida Oceanographic Society says that seagrass is key for many animals. Turtles, fish, and manatees rely on it for survival and are now dying off at record rates due to starvation. That's according to FWC data and Save the Manatee Club biologists. Dr. Judd says that algal blooms block sunlight from reaching the seagrass on the floor of the estuary. As a result, the Florida Oceanographic Society is attempting to grow seagrass in captivity in efforts to help restore the resource. But it's harder to do now than ever before.
In the past, the way we restored seagrass was to go to a healthy seagrass bed, dig up a clump, and move it to a degraded area. But when you have an estuary like the Indian River Lagoon that's lost 90% of its seagrass in the last decade, there's nowhere left to borrow grass from.
The Florida Oceanographic Society is now growing seagrass in their own tanks and in the Gamefish Lagoon in Stewart.
Trying to figure out how to grow seagrass in captivity better, how to get it to survive in the wild better, so that once water quality improves, there's going to be a way to kickstart the recovery process.
The blue whale might lose its crown as the heaviest mammal in history. This after fossils of a massive marine mammal were recently discovered in Peruvian deserts. According to officials, the Perseus colossus, which has been extinct for centuries, but may have tipped the scales at over 340 metric tons. That's a big animal there. All right, coming up on the National Weather Desk, sea turtles hatchlings are being killed by bright artificial lights. We'll find out what's being done to help solve that problem.
Well, we're looking at a mainly dry Thursday for most areas. There is going to be a frontal boundary that passes through. Could see a few scattered showers in some spots. It's really Friday that we need to watch as a cold front's going to pass through New England, and we are going to run the risk for some showers and thunderstorms. And you can see some of these could be on the severe side as well. So that's something to track. And as we get a look at the high temperatures today, we're talking temperatures in the 70s for some, 80s down to the south.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, I think this future scan a little overdone for the morning. I think just some extra clouds to start your Thursday, but by lunchtime and beyond, there could be some scattered showers and storms, so I'd have an umbrella in the car as our next weather maker moves in and begins to move through. Look at all the rain and storms out to the west. That's going to come with some increased humidity and the risk of rain and storms later today, but especially tomorrow. That's the scene here.
Good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Michael Arenberg with a look at your Southeast regional forecast for this Thursday. Showers and storms are possible moving through Tennessee into northern sections of Georgia and South Carolina and western North Carolina with a weak upper level disturbance. We will see the normal sea breeze showers and storms tending to move from east to west across the Florida Peninsula during the late afternoon and on into the mid-evening hours and then off the Gulf Coast thereafter. Highs 80s north of Atlanta, 90s for most of the Gulf Coast and Florida.
The National Weather Desk.
All right, health officials are now urging caution after people got sick from being exposed to a certain bacteria. Bacteria can be active in warm seawater in late summer and early fall, but it's not just people who are at risk. A woman believes something in the Chesapeake Bay may have made her dog sick. Erica Craven has more.
Good weather and good company are top concerns for beachgoers. Another is safety.
I don't know if there's any currents here. I'm not sure, so I just told them stay close.
But safety isn't just staying aware of moving water. Before you, your kids, or your pets hit the beach, how do you know the water's safe from bacteria lurking underneath? Swimmers told me they typically feel safe in the water.
Do you check water advisories before you go?
Not usually, no.
Alex McDonald of Norfolk said she wished she had known of a swim advisory before she took her dog Jack to swim in Ocean View July 8th.
The only advisory that I had seen were maybe a little bit of air quality issues from the fires in Canada. I didn't know, my vet didn't know, and people were saying, well, they put up signs. They don't put up signs. I didn't see anything on the beach.
She says Jack was healthy before the swim.
After that, he just started tanking.
Jack's now fighting a serious infection.
They said there's 2 prognoses that he has, and both of them could have been related to something he picked up from the bay.
The water in the Chesapeake Bay and the water at 45 public beaches in Virginia are tested weekly by local health departments.
There are a wide variety of microorganisms, whether it be they virus, parasites, or bacteria.
But water tests take 24 hours for a result. That's why officials say you should pay attention to times risks are higher.
Generally, what we find are when we do get elevated samples, it's after we've had a heavy rain.
Health officials say if you're swimming, take precautions. Avoid swallowing water and swim away from piers, pipes, and drains.
From sand to sea turtles face many obstacles, and one of the most dangerous is artificial lighting. Meteorologist Cherison Clark spoke to experts in Folly Beach, South Carolina, about what people and visitors can do to make the beaches more turtle-friendly.
The hatchlings are hardwired to go to the brightest thing around, which, as they evolved over the millions of years, has been the sky over the ocean.
But sometimes the brightest thing around is artificial light, like lamps or brightly lit houses. In the last week, the Folly Beach Turtle Watch team was called to 2 separate incidents where a total of 3 hatchlings were found dead and at least 20 were disoriented, all because they followed the beachfront lighting.
And the turtles would come out and they'd go in the wrong direction. And so we had volunteers there. We'd intercept them and escort them down to the beach. And that kept happening for maybe 20, 30 hatchlings in both nests. And we would also walk back among the dunes and we would find live hatchlings that are 20 feet away and a couple dead ones.
Miller says there are rules in place to prevent this from happening.
So we have an ordinance to keep the lights turned off, the beachfront lights turned off at 10 o'clock at night until dawn. It's especially important this time of year as all the nests are hatching, that we keep the beachfront lights off so the hatchlings go in the right direction.
Miller says it comes down to people trying to make beachfront homes more turtle-friendly.
This year, we've had over 25 Folly homeowners go to Folly, the City Hall, and say, what can we do to make our houses more turtle-friendly? Window tinting on the windows, amber lights, turtle-friendly lights, timers that turn the lights off and on. All the houses are required to have posting of the rules, turn the lights off. So it's getting better.
Sometimes it's the animals that can be a risk to humans. Officials in Seattle are warning hikers to take precautions after a woman helped save her child from a cougar attack in Olympic National Park. Jackie Kent talked to hikers about the park services and what's being done behind this rare encounter.
Air 4 flies over Lake Angeles, where just days ago, an 8-year-old was attacked by a cougar while camping. Olympic National Park staff say the child's mother screamed at the animal to scare it away.
Say hi.
The encounter, a surprise to avid hikers like Carla Rivera.
It's always hard to hear stories like that, but it was also encouraging that the mom was a hero and knew what to do when seeing a cougar.
Rivera described her experience of exploring the Lake Angeles Trail just weeks ago.
I was looking out for wildlife because the Park Service had posted cougar sightings, and there were other cougar sightings in the park previously to that.
The rare cougar attack on a human comes more than 5 years after another cougar killed a mountain biker near North Bend. The victim's friend, who was also hurt, called 911 in a panic.
I got attacked by a mountain lion. My friend is up there. I'm so worried about my story.
Officials say when they do find the cougar in Olympic National Park, it will be euthanized and removed for testing to find out why it attacked. While the Lake Angeles area and nearby trails are closed for now, hikers like Rivera are confident in the rangers keeping everyone safe.
The park rangers are really good about letting you know, you're supposed to get big, you're supposed to get loud, you're supposed to not run, but it's been so amazing to go and hike. So I hope people keep hiking because it's worth it.
The dwarf lake iris is a rare flower that is federally threatened. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is sending money to the Green Bay area to help improve the flower's habitat. But as Eric Peterson found out, the work includes removing some local trees.
Even though this seasonal springtime bloom is faded, the Ridges Sanctuary's land manager, Sam Hoffman, says memories of this little blue flower remain.
The dwarf lake iris is one of the Ridges Sanctuary's iconic species. It's quite a rare plant in the Great Lakes region. It is associated with shoreline habitats.
Hoffman says the federally threatened species grows well at the 1,600-acre site in Bailey's Harbor, especially along the wooden boardwalk that connects the 2 working range lights on the property. And over the years, he says a problem is growing.
It requires such specific conditions, and one of the threats to dwarf lake iris is forced encroachment. And we have a lot of trees that have been encroaching in this area.
Hoffman says a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service coastal program grant will help. He says the tree line will be scaled back to accommodate the range light's view of the harbor, and the number of dwarf lake iris monitoring stations will go from 4 to 10.
We set this up at this location because it's right on the edge of where we'll be doing the clearing. We monitor light availability, and then we monitor soil conditions, including soil temperature and soil moisture.
Hoffman says the effort complements other conservation work here. Volunteer Jane Whitney is part of a years-long project to count orchids at the sanctuary.
It's going to help tremendously in the sense that the more data we have, the more we understand our habitats and what our special plants require.
I think it's a good opportunity to show people that just because a plant is doing okay in one spot doesn't mean you can't help it to be better off in the future.
And time for a quick break, but first, in taking in some views of the Arizona desert from above.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. Temperatures warming up for us across a lot of the area. Got some thunderstorms there across the southern Ohio Valley. As we continue on into your Friday, got some storms brewing out in the plains. A lot of 80s, 90s, and getting up to 100 there in Wichita. So warm across a lot of the area. Those thunderstorms slowly moving their way west across the plains on Saturday, but still dry for most of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley.
Good Thursday morning to you, meteorologist Chris Suchan. Looking across the region, our forecast today, we do have the heat advisory, the excessive heat warning, again in effect for just about the entire region. Those afternoon temperatures with really not much in the way of cooling rain, 90s and over 100 degrees. Of course, near the Gulf, it will feel hotter when you factor the humidity. And then Friday's forecast, well, we go through the afternoon, temperatures again, 90s to about 105 to round out the week.
Well, hi there and a happy Thursday to you, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. We've got heat and we've got a little humidity because the monsoonal moisture continues to build over the desert southwest. 85, but a muggy 85 out of Salt Lake City today. 105 out of Vegas. The Rose City of Portland, Oregon, building to 89. And Seattle with the Blue Angels in town for Seaford this week. Mid-80s with blue skies for those aerial dynamics. Look at the thunderstorms today over the Four Corners. It'll be an issue in Denver. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, we show a lot of great weather content, but our team of meteorologists across the country are also posting a ton of great weather videos, pictures, and explainers on social media. Here's a recent post from meteorologist Christina Ernie about this month's supermoons.
So, you know what a full moon is, but do you know what a supermoon is? First of all, full moons aren't that rare. They happen every 29 and a half days. That's how long it takes for the moon to go through a full lunar cycle. But a supermoon is something else. It's when the full moon looks bigger and brighter in the night sky. And that's because it's closer than usual to Earth. This happens at a phase called perigee, and it's when the moon's orbit is closest to Earth. The opposite is called apogee. Our first supermoon of the month was August 2nd. Look at these amazing photos. And get this, by the end of the month, we have something even more special, a full moon and a second supermoon in the month, which is very rare. You put those two things together and we have a super blue moon, a blue moon being the second full moon of a month.
And thank you so much for joining us tomorrow on the National Weather Desk. We look how severe weather heat can impact your mental health. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Make it a great Thursday, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.